4-stroke cycle, and Pal's magic angle. If you feel like you already know this stuff and you don't need to pay attention, that's fine. If you want to look at your phone, look at your computer, as long as you're not disturbing somebody else from learning, I'm okay with that. I know there's a lot of people who have already been through recips, both recips classes, so you will recognize some of the slides from other classes. So just a heads up. So that's what we'll be talking about all this class period. Next class period, I plan on taking the magnetos apart. We're going to take them apart as a class. So next week, I don't know if I'm doing a lecture or lab. Either one, I'm going to have you sit next to your partners, and we're going to take them apart together. You guys should only need like a screwdriver and really small tools to take it apart. I have snap ring pliers in the tool crib. I know they're not a requirement on your tool list if I remember correctly. I haven't looked at the tool list in years.
They're not.
They're not, so I do have a few of those. You made me go through roll. You were the only one missing.
I know. Sorry.
Sorry. So just a heads up. So this week, when we go into lab, we're going to review the book and go through that a little bit more. And then next week, we'll take it apart. And then it's all on you guys on putting it back together and checking out with Mark. I realize that some of you guys might put it all back together and want to check out with Mark week 4. That's on you. Just let you know, Mark is not the easiest guy. He will make it difficult for you. So, and if it doesn't work, he'll make you troubleshoot why it's not working. Okay? So give you guys enough time. Like I said, there's plenty of time in this class. If you're falling behind, I will let you know. But we're going to kind of move at the beginning of this class as a class because I don't want anybody falling apart, or falling behind, sorry. Falling apart, same thing. Falling behind. So I do realize some of you guys have already been through most of the program, and this may be a redundancy for you, but it's always a good review. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so we might be in lecture a little bit longer tonight, but I will still give you guys a lunch at 6, and I might stop at an hour because it's really hard to talk continuously for an hour, so I'll probably take a break about 5:30 and give you guys about 5-10 minutes to walk around. Also, like I told you guys before, I'm going to go as slow as you need me to go through these slides unless we're getting ridiculously slow and we're spending 30 minutes on one slide for you guys to write this stuff down. So I had a couple students come ask me, hey, can I get the slides? I'm hoping throughout the semester maybe I can, but right now I'm switching up all of my slides because I'm teaching this class a little differently than I have in the past, and other instructors have started teaching this class, so we're kind of communicating with one another. Before there was only one instructor teaching this class. Now there's multiple teachers teaching this class, so we're kind of collaborating together and picking and choosing what works for us. So, okay?
Linda, it's so much easier when we have the slides so that we can pay attention more instead of trying to.
Yeah, I understand that, but also these slides are other slides that other instructors use, and so I also have to collaborate with them of giving them the slides to all the students. So you can take the slides and you can give them to the guys next semester, and all they do is put their head on my desk and they don't do anything. So they're kind of trying to eliminate that. I personally, like I said, this is your time. I'm here to teach you, and if you guys need me, I'm here, but this is your time. This is, you utilize it the best that you need. So if you don't need to be looking at the slides, if you feel like you know all this, that's up to you. And also, you're going to give me a notebook at the end of the semester. So these guys can print out the slides, which I won't take that. So if you're taking pictures of slides, I don't want pictures of slides in a notebook given back to me. I want you guys to actually write them out or type them out. And everybody's notebooks are going to be different because there may be a slide in here where I know I had Noonan in my class last semester. He's probably not going to write much of the recip stuff down because he already knows it. Or somebody else who's just got out of general is probably going to write down everything. But if you feel like you're falling behind and you need me personally to go through the slides, and I have office hours, and if you need me, I'll stay later for you, or I'll try to come earlier. So if you feel like you're not getting the best by having to write stuff down, come talk to me. But I haven't had too many problems the last time I taught this class. I gave ample amount of time. Some guys thought I gave too much time and got frustrated. But we're learning this as a group. So if it gets out of hand, just come and talk to me. Fair enough? Everybody's so quiet. So, if you haven't guessed, this is magneto class. What's this? Magneto, right? Okay, just to let you guys know, this is a key thing. There's lots of things we have you guys take apart in this program that you don't necessarily take apart in the field. You send them out for overhaul, correct? This one right here, you can do. As an A&P mechanic, you can take this apart and put it back together. So you can overhaul these. So what you learn in this class, you could very well do in the field. So I want you guys to remember that when you guys are taking these apart and going through the motions. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is our course outline. I'm just going to click until I get all the stuff on here. So, introduction to ignition concepts. So these words may look foreign to you right now, but this is what we're going to be talking about in this class. So power plant ignition needs, types of ignition systems. So we're going to talk about the battery powered and the magneto powered. And also when you're writing down these notes, you don't need to write every word for me if you don't need to. If you need to shorthand it and you just write, like you don't need to write of, to, the, all those words, and you just want to abbreviate things, as long as you understand them, that's all I care about. And like I said, if you need to take pictures, by all means. If you need to record this class, record it. Yes.
Are the slides available on the AIrCraft library?
No, no, sorry.
I just went over that. I think most of the teachers do. I think some don't. The other one happened to be teaching this class during the day, does not. So, but he also gives you 20 seconds a slide to write it down. He's even told me his timing. I can't write that fast either. So you guys let me know when you're done. We'll move on to the next slide. Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. And don't feel ashamed if you need more time. Just say, hey, I need more time. I understand that some of you guys type faster than write. Okay, so we're also going to go through the theory of magneto operation. So Lenz's law, we kind of went a little bit when I was talking about electricity, but we're going to go through it to a full extent, probably in a few weeks. And then the primary and secondary electrical circuit, the magnetic circuit. This is kind of just giving you a rundown of what we're going to talk about in this class. Is everybody good on that one? Okay. We go ahead. Okay for you guys? You good? Okay. Oops, sorry guys. Got a little happy there. There you go. Course outline. High tension system, low tension system, voltage distribution, never even say that word, and the sparking fire order. So all this stuff we're going to talk about in the course of the next 16 weeks. And some of the stuff that might go towards your magneto we might not talk about until after you've already checked out with your magneto, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to doing a lab and a lecture. You look super fast. Everybody got that down?
It's the juicy stuff that I like to write down.
Oh, the
Stuff that
juicy
you're
stuff.
saying, not the stuff that's up
Oh, the stuff I'm saying. Oh, that
It's
stuff.
the juicy
The
stuff.
stuff I say is not very juicy. That's why I write it down. Because everybody's like, you didn't say that, blah blah blah. So I was like, oh, it's written down on the slides. talk about all that in this class, though. And if you've been in the program a long time, you'll start to realize that you feel like everything's just blending together.
Probably supposed to, right? You know.
It is. It's all supposed to go together. So this class will stack onto the next class and so forth. So like I said, if this is one of your last classes, most all of this class should already be pretty sunk in. Because you're going to be able to relate all the other parts that go to the magneto. You've seen spark plugs, you've seen lights, you've seen the engine. There's some people just coming out of general. This is going to be their class that they're going to build on for the other classes. And I got to look at it in both directions. When I took the program, there wasn't enough of us, so they kind of forced all of us on this one track, so we were all together. So when the teachers taught our class, we were all on the same page. There wasn't that many of us. Did you guys get all written down? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so internal magneto timing, external magneto timing. So this is talking about timing the magneto with just the magneto internally. Then we're talking about timing it to the engine. Two separate things. We'll be talking about single and dual magnetos, but we'll just be probably working with just a single, but we'll talk about the dual ones as well.
You mean single as in, or dual as in two on the engine, or?
Two, there's a magneto that's actually a dual magneto that there's two
So
inside.
it's an internally dual.
Yeah, so internally there's two.
A big square box. Bottom.
Big square box.
The shaft on the front.
Big square box. I like that.
It's usually because they only have one position to put it in, right?
Yeah, and there's in aviation it's the same thing with cars. They think that this is going to work better, so a bunch of people will try this, and it turns out it's not working better. So they've actually converted the dual one has only got one drive. So it actually, if that drive fails, both magnetos are not working. So that's why they decided to separate them. It just depends on the engine you have, but they thought that that would be more efficient and it would save weight and space, and it really didn't. So it's kind of like that. Just looking at cars, when the guy's like, "Well, this would make it better. This will make it better," but in the long run, which one is it really any better?
Why you only have two positions, so if you have a vacuum pump, you only have one
Yeah,
slot.
but that's why when they made the engines, that's why they did what they did, because they thought that that would be more efficient than having two.
That and no one ran vacuum pumps, they all just had Venturis. So,
To look at it that way. There's all trial and error with a lot of things. Does everybody have that written down? Cool. Oh, sorry, spark plugs at the bottom.
oh,
We're gonna talk about spark plugs.
no, that's nice.
That is nice.
Why not?
Okay. So inspection and overhaul of magnetos, inspection and overhaul of ignition harnesses, inspection and overhaul of spark plugs. So these are going to be things that we're going to do in the lab. So we're not really going to overhaul an ignition harness, but you are going to test it and you are going to inspect it and you're going to tell me what's wrong with it visually, electrically, and so forth. We'll go through that. So, and I might ask you, would you put this on your airplane? Because some people will, because cosmetically it could look like garbage, but if it works, some pilots don't care.
They overhaul a spark plug.
They do actually, some of them, they redo them, don't they? Rebuild
Yeah,
them.
they can rebuild them. They can overhaul them. We don't necessarily overhaul.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
It's
consider
more inspection, clean, and
yeah, they
test.
consider that an overhaul when they say, because technically you're returning it to its best position. And we'll go through whether it's worth it or not for certain things, because some things just you could do, but they're really not worth doing. Okay. All right, so we're going into concepts here. So all internal combustion engines need some source of ignition to cause combustion. So the type, duration, source of ignition depends on the engine and the type of fuel being ignited. So the easy one for that is the turbine and a recip. They don't work the same, but they have some source of ignition. And we'll talk about that today probably. You have no picture takers?
I have a Neanderthal phone.
Doesn't take pictures? Even the ones that just text and call take pictures. Even the ones that don't even text takes pictures.
I have a dumb phone.
Is it a cell phone or a landline? I still have guys at work that have the flip phone that they're T90. Okay. I'm just excited they're texting. Some of them don't text. As I'm trying to text them and it's not going through, they're like, because he doesn't have text on his phone. I'm like, oh, so that's a problem.
When I send anything to my mother, it's always, I have to make sure that it's not an MMS. It has to be an SMS. Otherwise her phone won't get it. Because she's like, I keep trying to buy her a new phone.
I'll see, my mom, she'll call, she's like, did you get the exact same phone I got? Because one time I got her a different phone and the biggest mistake. How does this? I said, Mom, I don't know, I can't see you and I can't see your phone. She's like, just buy me the exact same phone you have. So every time I just get her the same phone I have. Works out good.
My stepdad works for Qualcomm. He spent his entire career designing chipsets for phones. And my mom has a dumb phone and refuses to get a different phone.
You know, people should have their ways. So everybody got this down? Good? Cool. Okay, most fuel ignite at different temperatures, flash point of rapid evaporation. So we're talking about the fuels that you're using. They're going to ignite at different temperatures. Depends on the engine. Pretty simple stuff so far, right guys?
Yep.
Okay. I try not talking when you guys are writing, so.
Could you explain a little bit more of the difference between the temperature and the heat?
The temperature and the heat. So the temperature. So what do you mean when it ignites versus the heat in there? Because you need heat in there. So even when it ignites.
Well, I'm
it's gonna
confused
be-
about heat is measured as a capacity to do work. So like certain, I guess you're just gonna have to explain a lot. Give me an example or something.
Give me an
Calories.
example. Did somebody say calories?
Because a kilocalorie is a measure of the amount of energy required to raise one cc or one milliliter of water 1 degree. And that's how we use heat as a measure of the capacity to do work.
Did you get that?
I'm ready for the next slide.
He must know what calories did.
I
You
don't
like
even
that
go
one?
45 seconds back.
I discovered
I rewind that, and so I don't remember that. So, when you're talking about heat, so this is talking about temperature and heat. So heat is, what is heat? It's hot outside, 106 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know if it's 106 here, but in Poway it was 106. Very hot outside. But heat is its temperature, right? I don't understand. As we go on and we start explaining how as it gets hotter inside the engine, because if you're looking at a turbine engine versus recip engine. Turbine engines are going to be hotter. There's compressed air in there. The compressed air gets hotter. But heat is temperature. So they're gonna ignite at different temperatures. So the recips engine is gonna ignite at a different temperature than a turbine engine. And heat plays a factor in that. But as far as the difference between temperature and heat, heat is temperature.
Well, from what I understand, heat is temperature. Like, for example, it might take longer to get to a certain temp, or not certain temp, certain heat. It might take longer for the temperature to get there, more energy required to get to that certain heat. Like as opposed if you're boiling something outside, in like a freezing temperature, as opposed to when you're boiling something like on a day like
Oh,
this.
so you're talking about like, okay, so like when it's hot outside versus when it's cold outside and you're running the engine.
It takes a lot less temperature to get to the heat.
Yeah, because
and
everything is already heated up. So when you're talking about running in a hot day versus a cold day, is that what you're talking about? Like the temperature outside is hot, so the engine's going to heat up faster, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm just gonna.
Well, hopefully when we keep going on, maybe it'll make more sense. Okay, so fuels have different heat requirements to create sustainable combustion. Temperature will have to be higher, and there will have to be enough heat energy to maintain evaporation of the fuel. Does that make it on your screen, Jude?
Huh?
Is it like clicked on your screen for you so you can see it better?
No, I'm just recording the lecture.
Oh, okay.
But since it's right in my face.
I don't want to see this stuff on YouTube, okay?
You might. You'd have to look pretty hard though.
Look at underground YouTube skills.
If you want to go to those links to put it on YouTube, then goodbye all means. But if the first thing that pops up when I type in ignition class is my face, I'm going to go, Jude.
Oh, you can't see you. If that makes you better. Feel better.
I try really hard to blend in. It's been really hard being in this program to blend in. I try really, really hard,
It's
but it
hard
doesn't
when
work
you're
out.
one of the few females around.
Yeah, that's what makes it really hard. And yesterday I got asked 15 times if I was a student, and he swore, he's like, you're going to be a student, you can't be a teacher. I was like, why? Because I'm a girl, or? He's like, no, they're all a bunch of old guys. I'm like, I didn't say it, you said it.
That's right, the old guys are saying it too, though, so it's alright.
Yeah, they're like, we want to retire, we're out of here. So does this make a little bit more sense with the temperature and the heat?
Sure, yeah. Let's keep moving.
That doesn't really give me confidence. Does everybody have that down?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, snap, sorry. So I usually have a list on the side. Usually I put the slides on the side, so the guys in the front usually are writing faster than everybody else because we're trying to get the ones on the side, but then I realized people in the back can't see it, so I'm kind of going blind with you guys. Okay, so additionally, when the combustion process is happening rapidly, the ignition duration is also a factor. So when we're talking about a recip versus a turbine turbine is constantly like a blowtorch. You've got constantly sparking, flaming. After the spark plug ignites, the magneto does its business, it's all done. And when we're talking about a turbine, it's constantly igniting. You're constantly getting fuel and ignition in at the same time, right? It's like a blowtorch. So when you keep putting fuel in with heat, it's going to keep going. When we talk about recips, that's not the case. So when we're talking about duration as a factor, this is kind of what they're talking about.
So they're talking, when they say ignition duration is a factor, they're talking about recips, not.
They're talking about all of them. We're talking about ignition, we're talking about any kind of ignition. So we're not just talking about recips, we're not just talking about just strictly turbines, just strictly a recip engine. So we're talking about all of them.
Alright, understood.
Has everybody got that down?
And the juicy stuff too, I think.
You got the juicy stuff down too. I don't really think there's juicy stuff, but you might catch something I didn't. So, 3 factors affecting fuel ignition is temperature of ignition, heat energy produced by ignition source, and duration of ignition. Oh, he's taking pictures. See, somebody's taking pictures.
Now you can write all this down.
Some guys tell me it helped them study better because what they did is they took pictures and then they went through all of them and wrote down their notes before the first test, and then they went to the next one, so they did a refresher. Everybody has a different way of doing it. I wish my teachers would let me take a picture or record their class, but I don't really remember too much of my classes. It's kind of a blur.
That's real confidence.
Well, it was also 10 years ago. Do you remember everything in general we did 10 years ago?
Yes, every single detail.
Every single detail. I took general with Lisa over there, so.
Sure remember that 3-in-1 tool I did.
You know, I didn't really have any problems with 3-in-1 tool. I remember, but everything's stacked up on each other. So if I didn't remember it in class, whatever was important, I did it out in the field. Most all of the stuff that I remember doing is stuff that I did hands-on. This is just to give you a I don't know how we could say it, introduction to what aviation is about. Because when you guys start working on this stuff, that's how doing things triggers your memory, putting things in your hand, stuff like that. And I'm hoping that some of these words will turn into something that you guys will remember. It might not be everything. If you can remember just one thing from each class, I would be excited about that. Okay, so internal combustion engines typically need an ignition source. This is always from some heat generating device or system. The most common is an electric spark. Everybody almost got that down? Almost? Are you safe to move on?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Alright. Process of power generation in an engine is to compress a mixture of air and fuel. So we're talking about a recip engine. We're talking about when the piston goes up and down. So we're going to go through this in this class instantly on what happens when it goes up and down. And not too much as if you were in recips, but just so we get the kind of general idea. You guys learned about Powell's magic angle in recips, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Haven't had it.
Okay.
You good?
I'm good.
Everybody got it down? Yeah? Yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next slide. Alright. How many of you guys have motorcycles? What's in your motorcycle?
Maybe.
I got a Suzuki
A Suzuki?
and DR350.
Okay.
4-stroke.
Yours is
I
a
grew up
4-stroke?
on 2-strokes. So.
You grew up on 2 strokes? Okay. So you know the difference between a 2-stroke and a 4-stroke, right?
Things happen twice as fast in a 2-stroke.
Twice as fast, right? We're only doing it once up and down, right?
Or in half the time.
Or in half the time. Well,
Same difference.
if you think if there's
6 of one, half of the
Yeah, in 4 strokes, you're doing 4 strokes that you're going to do in 2 strokes. There's double the things happening in a 2-stroke, right?
No.
No. Half the things
The
are
other way.
happening?
Yeah.
Half the things are happening?
There's no valves.
But
Less
it's
stuff
doing
moving.
all the
It
stuff that
is.
a 4-stroke is doing without
Yeah.
the valves, right?
Right.
So really the biggest difference is in a 4-stroke you have 4 strokes up and down, and in a 2-stroke, 2 up and down. And in a 4-stroke we have valves, and in a 2-stroke you do not. But when we're talking about airplanes, most of the time you have a 4-stroke.
Once you get a Rotax.
What?
Once you get an early Rotax.
I'll be knocking the Rotax.
I like them. They're cool. Strictly speaking, on some of the 2-stroke diesels, there are actually exhaust valves. But that's just me being pedantic.
It's okay. I'll forgive you.
Thank you.
But in this case, most of the time when we're talking about 2-stroke, there are no valves.
Ports.
Does everybody have that down? Yeah?
Mhm.
That wants to write it down? Okay. The piston then repeats itself, ventilating air, fuel, and exhaust. So I'm going to show you a diagram of a 2-stroke here in a minute. You guys' hands are hurting yet?
Mhm.
It's only been 30 minutes. If I told Lonnie I gave you guys this much time to write down a slide, he'd shoot me.
That he would.
Yeah, anybody who's had Lonnie, your hands like,
Cannot write fast enough.
and he will sit there and talk during the whole time, and he'll give you this valuable information. I was like, Lonnie, I wouldn't even write any of your slides down. I would just sit and listen to you.
I
'Cause-
tell him the same thing.
Yep. Everybody got that last one written down?
Yep.
Yeah? I can go back?
Oh, yeah.
Good? Okay. Okay, this engine needs to have a spark generated in a combustion chamber at a very specific time each crankshaft rotation. So we're talking about the two-stroke. And anything I test you on will be in the slides, so I won't just verbally say something and expect you guys to remember it. It'll be in the slides. Or if I assign reading, but 99% of the time it will be in the slides. So I won't say something and expect you guys to remember what I said. Unless I say, hey, this is going to be on the test, please write this down. Okay? Does everybody have that one right now? Yeah? Okay. So here's a diagram. I think you can find this. Can you find this in your power plant book? I pulled it from an old power plant book. 2004 to be exact. I don't know if they're in the new power plant books. I kind of don't like the new books. I like the older books they had before. Had a little bit more information. But that's the first thing you notice. There's no valves in here, right? Yeah?
So this is a two-stroke?
This is a two-stroke. So on one stroke, you're going to have the intake and the compression stroke, and then the other is the power and exhaust. So would you say half the stuff is happening, or twice as fast as the stuff is happening?
Well, as the exhaust goes out, it draws the new fuel air charge in.
Yes,
So it's kind of all at once.
all at once. Did you guys catch that? So say that again.
When the piston comes down, it opens the exhaust port. As the exhaust is leaving the chamber, it draws in the fresh fuel air charge.
So all this is happening very quickly. And a four-stroke,
Suck, squeeze, bang, blow.
that wasn't what I was looking for, but
It's accurate.
did you say it's accurate?
Very accurate.
Times. I can't say that in my class and just say, okay, that's what you need to remember.
Oh, okay.
But the first part was great.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're here for. Like I said, if you guys take something that another student says and it sticks with you, saying whatever, go with it. If he makes more sense with his logic, some things he can say I can't say, so maybe it will sink in better. Because if you go to the recips teacher and tell him that I told you that's exactly what happens in a four-stroke, I'm probably going to get a phone call very quickly. Say, don't do that.
So you have a valve, a reed valve.
Yeah, a valve, but we don't have like an exhaust and an
Mechanical
intake.
valve.
Yeah.
There's no poppet valve.
Yes. So, and all of you guys that have motorcycles have heard about the sweet spot, right? Where it works the best. Sweet. Some days say other different acronyms for it, but that's one of them. So since we don't have an exhaust valve, there's also called the exhaust tuning pipe. Does the tuning for you guys. Do you want to explain how that works?
Okay.
Yeah. When you see the exhaust pipes, when they come off the head, they get real big and then they taper down. What happens is there's a, what is it, like a sound wave that's created within that chamber.
It's a
And
shock
when you-
wave.
Shock wave. When you hit a certain RPM, it's like hitting nitrous. The motor just takes off.
So what does that shock wave do? So when
Probably
it's
creates a vacuum effect on the exhaust. As it's pulling more exhaust out of the chamber, it pulls more fuel air into the chamber.
so you guys kind of get that?
They say it helps with cylinder filling.
Yeah, well basically, yeah, it can hold pressure in there. It's basically where your air is coming in and out. So the shock wave, when the shock wave happens, it's
When the exhaust valve,
I mean,
when
sorry.
the exhaust port opens.
yeah, when it opens, but you're getting that, when you're getting that shock wave coming back, the key is what is that shock wave doing? That's what I'm asking. So does it?
It's a jet pump, basically.
And sort of, but when it gets to the end of the chamber, it also stops. And it creates, so that when the fresh fuel air comes into the cylinder, now it's got a pressure wall that it hits and stays in the chamber.
Is it resonating?
No.
No.
That's usually something you want to stay away from.
Doesn't do that. But if you guys look at different motorcycles, they're all not exactly the same, right? The length, how big it is, all that's determined. That helps with engine performance. Okay, so since you don't have valves, that's one of them.
This might seem a little bit redundant. Do you have a good little video that you can show how this works?
How the two-stroke goes.
Yeah, I've never.
Like an animated.
Yeah, an animated.
You can
video.
look it up on YouTube. There's a bunch of them.
That stuff.
Yeah, if you want during the break, I'll look one up and I'll show you guys after break so you can kind of see. I have a video on
And-
four-stroke,
and
but yeah,
research.
I can bring one up and we can show
First
you.
research class, it goes over it really well.
Yeah, if you want, I can look up a video during, because we're gonna probably still be in lecture when we come back from break. So if I find it during lecture, or during the break, I'll show you guys what it looks like.
The fuel air charge actually goes through the crankcase.
Because I understand it's probably easier to visually see when you
Oh, it's a whole lot
visually
easier.
Yeah, it's so much easier, I guess.
Especially when this is the first time you're kind of seeing this.
Yes, I understand. So also that's, that's another good thing to add in there. So as I teach these classes, that's another good thing to throw in there. I get ideas from you guys
They do
too.
have a separate oil system in the crankcase. But that's
Okay,
because
so
they
is everybody kind of taking a look at that picture? So like I said, we're going to be focusing more on the four-stroke, but you also need to know about the two-stroke. And just for FYI, I'm not going to test you on the two-stroke or engine stuff. I'll let you know. So I'm not going to test you on what we just talked about, but I kind of want you guys to get a see of how the engine is working. Okay? So in a four-stroke, the piston goes up and down twice for each power stroke, down to intake, up to compression and ignite, and down for power. So in the two-stroke, we were doing all this in 2 versus the 4, right? It's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, right? And then we have valves opening and closing during this time. So you don't need a tuned exhaust pipe to help you out there, technically.
It seems like the two-stroke seems to be more beneficial because it's not doing as much work, right?
It's not doing as much
To
work.
get the same power.
It has a power stroke every other stroke. So yes.
It's a weight factor.
two-stroke has a power stroke every stroke.
Yeah, that's what we just said.
Yeah, so it seems like you'd get more out of
The
it.
problem is
It's
the
less
fuel doesn't
efficient,
burn
though.
it. Fuel
Once you
doesn't
don't have
burn as
valves.
efficiently.
If they made more power,
Because
we'd
you're
see a lot
getting-
more two-stroke
You
cars.
don't get rid of all the
Well, yeah,
exhaust
because
gases.
you lose more fuel going out
When-
with the two-stroke
Well,
than you
does
do
it-
with
They're
four-stroke.
So
dirty
does a
engines.
full
Yeah,
stroke-
exactly.
four-stroke
You're
kind of
losing more
eliminate
fuel
that
out that
Yeah.
exhaust.
So
Because
it's more.
you-
So this is more efficient.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And one of the main reasons we just talked about was it's more fuel efficient. So did you catch that? So you're losing more fuel going out the exhaust than actually utilizing in the four-stroke. How we doing?
1
Hold on a
second.
minute.
Okay.
How about the Winkle engine?
Winkle engine?
Oh, wait. Those
Rotary?
are funny.
They were?
I love those engines.
Sort of.
As long as you have good rotor tips.
They only last about 8,000 miles.
Depends. You gotta stay up in the oil. They have oil injection on them. You know that?
It's mostly the seals.
You have to keep them oiled. Yeah, you have to keep them oiled.
You have to do the same for the
Good.
rotary engine
Okay.
and the
It's been
They
about
have
10
oil
minutes.
injection
So-
on 'em.
The last one is up for exhaust and then repeat. Sorry. I knew I was missing one. Okay, we ready? Okay. Alright. So this engine needs a time spark generated in the combustion chamber every other crankshaft rotation because it's a the 4-stroke, right? And we're going to explain that time spark. I'm going to go through, that's what the Powell's magic angle is. You need it to happen at a certain time to get the most out of your engine and to prevent stuff as preignition and detonation. Which right now I want you guys to know are completely different. So don't tell me they're exactly the same. They can happen simultaneously, but they are different things. Everybody got that down? Hands cramping? Alright, like at least you get to look at a picture. So this is kind of like this is the 4-stroke. So it's showing you the 4 separate, what do they call those things?
Cycles.
Cycles! There you go. So, for my guys that have taken recips, what happens on the intake stroke?
Intake.
Take some fuel in air. Where are the valves at this point?
Exhaust is open, your intake.
Valve is open.
Exhaust is closed, intake's open.
Oh, what was that? I got opposite. Say that one more time.
Exhaust is closed.
And the intake is open, right? Okay. What's the next stroke?
Compression.
Try and keep you guys awake here. So what happens on the compression stroke?
This wheels up, both valves are closed.
Both valves are closed and pistons going up, right?
Fuel air mixtures
You gotta start.
compressed.
What'd you say?
I said you compress it, but sure.
Okay.
Valves are closed, yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, like, that's why you're saying every other is a power stroke because then it has to reset itself with the waste going out, right?
Mhm.
The exhaust.
Yeah, so when you're talking about the 4-stroke or the 2-stroke?
The 4-stroke here. This is what this is, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
so when you hit the exhaust stroke, so that's when all the exhausts come
So
out.
that's why it's every other, right?
Yeah, 'cause
I got you.
takes that long to get through the whole cycle. So after the compression stroke, we're into the power stroke. What happens during power stroke?
Piston goes down.
What are the
Which
valves?
forces the
Still
crankshaft?
closed.
Which does what?
Forces the crankshaft to move?
Where's the crankshaft to move? Is the crankshaft always moving?
Well, yeah, because you got other cylinders in there, right?
Right. Okay.
Even with one.
Huh?
Even with one cylinder.
One cylinder, it's always moving. Because this is constantly going up and down. It's rotating. See how
Yeah.
it's always moving. So what did we say? I'm sorry. What did we say the valves were doing?
Yeah,
Closed.
They're closed. Okay. And then in the exhaust stroke,
Exhaust valve opens and blows the air out.
blows all the
The exhaust gases out.
exhaust gases out. Okay. You guys kind of understand that? My guys who haven't had recips, my students, sorry, students. I'm
is
used to
there-
teaching all guys.
I gotta ask, is there like, because obviously this thing has no idea, it doesn't have a mind of its own. How does it know when it's on the exhaust? Is there like a timing? Or where, like a gear or something, or how's it? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
Where it
Yeah,
just
there's a
times
timing
everything
chain or
together?
timing belt goes up to a camshaft. That's
Okay, I
time.
That's what your
And
camshaft
then
is.
everything works in the right moment.
So yeah, it's all timed. Works pretty.
It's magic, Jude.
Pure fucking magic.
It's
DFM, that's right.
It's like a horse, you got 4 feet.
I'm gonna tell you that I
No,
might
I
tell you
actually
that a
have
couple
like one or
times in here.
two. The other ones are just.
Because the electricity stuff is magic. You just
Yeah.
need to know what it does.
I get that. I get the electric stuff.
Okay, the electric. Oh well, you get. What is wrong with you? How do you get the electric stuff and not
Because
the
I did that
mechanical
before
stuff?
I did this.
Oh no no, you did DC, right?
Yeah, I did the
Okay.
DC.
Oh well, there's way more electricity to go beyond DC.
And
That
we're
doesn't
doing
make
the-
any sense. It's all magic.
And we're doing the airplane.
But if you understand the electricity, you are way above the curve because most of us struggle with the electrical part and the mechanical part we see. So if you can see the electrical part, the mechanical part may seem difficult, but once you see it, it just clicks. And these guys that are over here that know it so well is because they deal with it on a daily basis. I'm sure that you've taken your bike apart and redone it, or a bike,
Yeah,
and you've looked at engines your whole life, right?
pretty much.
Okay. So there's always going to be people like that, and you're going to feel like, oh, I don't understand. And then you're coming in here, when I came into this program, didn't know anything about engines. Barely even knew how to open the hood of my car. I was only told I had to know how to change a tire and change my oil if I wanted a driver's license. Those are the only things I knew how to do until I got this program. And now, it clicks, it makes sense. But it takes time. But these guys have had their whole lives working on it, so. Alright. Another type of 4-stroke reciprocating engine, the air is highly compressed by the piston moving up, which we just talked about. So that's why I told you guys to go through it with me. And the fuel is sprayed directly into the hot pressured air. I hope the diagrams help some.
Does this mean they're talking about diesels?
And it's air? I thought it was a mixture of like gas.
Nah.
This is for a diesel engine.
This is for
Diesels are
diesel.
direct injected.
Yes.
That's the
So
difference.
we're talking about diesel.
And it's air because it has to burn slower, right?
No, you do higher
In a
compression.
diesel, when the fuel is injected, it's injected directly into the combustion chamber. And usually, when fuel, as soon as the fuel enters the combustion chamber, it ignites.
So
That's
you
why
don't need a
diesel's
spark
not so
plug.
The combustion chamber is so hot.
The pressurized air gets so hot that it automatically, you don't need ignition.
Because when you compress something, it gets hot.
Yeah.
It even happens in gas engines, just not to the same degree.
You get that?
I got that.
I want to see
I
your. I want
spend-
to see your notes on
I
this.
spend every day, day in and out and day out with Lonnie. He teaches turbines. Trust me, you get lectures. Oh. You can see my notes. Actually, I have exactly what he just said to you actually in my notes. But I've noticed that you guys telling each other versus me telling you seems to sink in better. I've noticed that in the past. When I say it, I can say the exact same words he just said, but when he says it, ooh, it's like the Holy Grail. Ooh.
That's my right though.
That's right.
He's a master of things, so it doesn't matter.
Some people tell me that.
Why are you here, Brian?
I have no idea. Somebody said I'd be a good aircraft mechanic. I said, okay.
Oh, okay.
Who told you
Read
that?
The guy that told me that was, I was putting his car together without the gaskets. So he still said I would be a good aircraft. Okay, whatever.
I would make you a good aircraft mechanic.
You were so bad at cars, you decided you need to go with a plane.
I'm sick of cars. I am so sick of cars.
Well, at the current moment, airplanes are a little bit more simpler, but they're starting to catch up with cars. Because cars, everything's computerized. You break something, your computer is. You gotta know how to work on computers now. Old cars,
No.
no.
Have you heard about
Computer
the?
is the most reliable part of the car.
Say that to my awesome POS PT Cruiser.
Decent
job.
cruiser.
Actually, I inherited one when I got married.
Okay, well, okay, that's not.
I love my Toyota Tacoma, and I don't care what anybody says about their brand new car. I love my Tacoma. It doesn't have any problems. There's no computer. Simple for me.
What
Yes.
year Tacoma?
Mine's a 96.
That's computer.
Computer.
Well, but still not as
It's
bad
a
as
very simple computer.
very, very simple, and I don't have a
Got
problem
like
with
4 or 5 computers in it.
it. Very simple.
They are.
I don't go to the mechanic says your computer's broken. Go with the PT Cruiser, go with a Beamer, whatever. Oh, your computer is trying to reset itself and now it's unhappy. You take out the battery, you put the battery back in, it's mad because you put a new battery in and it's got to reset everything. And I'm like, seriously, just change the battery.
New Volkswagens, you actually have to go in with the scan tool and tell it you're going to replace the battery.
Yeah, that's it's ridiculous.
Yeah. That right there is one of the reasons I'm leaving.
But I also tell most of my students, you will, on a general level, make more money as a car mechanic than you will an airplane mechanic. So if you love cars, make more money.
That's not right.
No, that's not true. Necessarily.
Go ask your go ask your car mechanic how much he starts people in his general shop, and then go to general aviation and ask him how much they will pay you.
Alright. GA, yeah.
Okay, well,
I'm not
if
talking about GA though. I'm talking about airlines.
Yeah, but
I said on a general basis.
Everybody's gonna get in the airline.
Not everybody's gonna get in the airlines. Most of you guys are gonna start. Most of you guys are gonna start at a small airport. How many of you guys have? I mean, people working right now. How many of you started at a small airport? Right there. And those are guys that I know that are working. Most people will start at somewhere like Gibbs or Instrument Overhaul or even for Ted Hazelwood. And you'll start at $15, $16 an hour. I think it's a little bit more now. And that's if you have your AMP. If you don't have your AMP, sweeping the floors. But yeah, on a general basis, yeah. Go ask your car mechanic how much he makes an hour. Why do you think most people do their own stuff?
Because they don't know any better.
They don't know any better, so they do it themselves?
Yeah, logical.
Logically, we do it if we don't know? Okay. So this process works because the fuel type used has a low, very low flame point of 300 to 400 degrees. It's diesel or jetting. After this slide, we're going to take about a 5-minute break. You guys are way more argumentative than my last class. What's going on?
Yeah, but we're quieter.
No, actually, they were a lot quieter, believe
Really?
it or not. Yep. I always have a couple that run the class like every semester, but
Keeps you awake, bro.
it
Arguments?
does.
Yeah.
But like I said, when you guys are talking amongst yourselves and you guys are talking to me, and for some reason it seems to get people sink in. They may have missed part of the conversation, but they might have heard something else. As long as nobody argues with me on what side the washer goes on a spark plug, we will have a great semester. Because if you argue to me about what side the washer goes that it matters, I will.
you mean the gasket?
Sorry, the gasket. Sorry. Yeah, I'm upset on
I
washers.
mean, I'll
Sorry.
argue about the washer, but the gasket.
Sorry, the gasket. The gasket, not the washer. The gasket. Sorry, the gasket. You tell me that it goes a certain way, I will have Mr. Balsman in here for a 3-hour lecture on why it doesn't matter because I did that last time I taught this class. So if you guys want to argue that, I have no problem bringing him in here, and he'll draw diagrams, and then he'll still explain it to you later. And the kids still came back and like, it still matters, Linda. I can only do what I can do.
Do they need to be annealed?
But keep them in copper.
Annealed. They used to anneal them.
Is it? Yeah, it's not worth it. Is it really worth it to do that?
It's fine.
Lyle argues it is.
And Lyle, what?
Lyle argues that it is totally worth it.
Have you- It's Lyle for crazy.
It's true.
You wouldn't believe the stuff he's told me to do for this class. I was like, Lyle, they don't really need to know that. They do need to know that. I was like, they're not doing car mechanics in their backyard.
That Neo's got something to do. It's got to do with something landing here too. So.
Oh, I'm sure he can find something. He's offered to come in and do a class for me. He's a great guy.
If the menu's not working on landing, you won't work either.
Landing gear is key for everything. All right, you guys take about a 5-10 minute break, and we'll come back and we'll start up again.